This is the 50th episode of Vote Her In, a collaboration between Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. On today's episode, we speak with political strategist and commentator Alaina Beverly. Hi everyone, this is Kelly and you are listening to Vote Her In, a collaboration of Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. And we are coming to you today, the day after the first and only vice presidential debate in the 2020 cycle. So I'm going to turn it over now to Rebecca, who will introduce our guest. Hi, Rebecca.
Thrilled to be here post-debate and with a very special guest as always. For those of you who may not be counting, which is probably only me and Kelly, this is our 50th show. To say it's just been a treat all the way down this path, sharing ideas and the knowledge of our friends and colleagues on this path to the White House and electing more women. And so today, on this morning after, so to speak, of the debate, we're talking with a colleague of both of ours, actually, Alaina Beverly, who is a assistant VP at the University of Chicago, a favorite place of all of ours, but also an Obama administration alum, an MSNBC commentator, and all around whiz on all matters related to politics and urban policy and civil rights. So welcome. And we thought we would begin, Alaina, we're so glad you're here. And for our listeners, you should know the three of us were giggling for a minute beforehand about, of course, The Fly. So I know we'll kick off with a discussion of the debate and The Fly and other matters.
That's right. Rebecca, who knew that The Fly was going to get so much attention? Well, thank you for having me today. So yes, I'm an assistant vice president for urban affairs at the University of Chicago, but joining you in my personal capacity, since we're going to be talking about politics, and the empowerment of women in the political process. As you know, I served in the Obama administration in 2008 and then again in 2012, or on the campaign rather, doing African-American outreach and African-American engagement. And I served in the Obama White House in the Office of Urban Affairs. But today I am still so energized by last night's presentation with Senator Kamala Harris. She did just a simply terrific job last night. You know, I think that I was trying to think of a theme song for both the campaign and for Senator Harris going into the debate, because I'm one of those wonky, geeky people who gets so excited about debates, especially in a time like this when there's so much on our plates, and where I think that this election is going to chart the future, the course of the future of our democracy. So I was thinking about a theme song, and I think Senator Harris's theme song going into last night was, Aretha Franklin's Rock Steady, because because she had to navigate so many fault lines last night, right? As the vice presidential selection, she had to both do no harm to the Biden-Harris ticket, right? Biden is leading, the ticket is leading by 16 points in national polls and leading in the battleground states. So first and foremost, do no harm, but also lay out the facts of the failure of the Trump-Pence administration, demonstrate leadership, that she has the capacity to lead as the number two and potentially the number one, given the age of our presidential ticket, and then show that there's no light between her positions as a formal presidential candidate herself, but no light between her position and Joe Biden's position now and the platform. And then lastly, to push and peel, to push the base of the party, the backbone of the party, the people of color who have voted overwhelmingly Democratic, but making sure that we are energized, and then also trying to peel off from the Republican base. That's a lot. That's a lot in one debate. But having said that, I think she nailed it. I think that she was the winner of the debate. I think she was firm and confident and authentic. I'm just so proud of the dexterity and the facility with what she laid out those facts, the effects of the pandemic on all of us, speaking directly to the voters, the effect that 4 more years of a Trump-Pence administration would have on healthcare, what it means for pre-existing conditions, what it means for the overwhelming shuttering of businesses in our economy, what it means for getting our lives back on track, and what it means for the division in our country and Trump's failure to disavow white supremacy. She laid it all out. And I think that she was the undeniable victor of last night's debate, possibly with the exception of the fly, who survived a whole bunch of hair gel.
So we know you talked just now about energizing voters, and we know that both voter registration and get out the vote efforts are so important in these elections. Voter registration has been way up this year, but those efforts are largely over at this point. A lot of voter registration deadlines in states have passed now, and people are already voting. Millions of people have already voted. So what do we need to think about, especially with urban turnout, and especially in urban areas that have been so hard hit by the pandemic? How do Democrats make sure that they are turning out urban voters? How do they make sure they're turning out, especially African-American voters, in these states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan, where the differences in their big cities could be all the difference in the election?
That's a great question, because at this point in the cycle, it is go time. It's all about voter contact and voter mobilization, making sure that we're helping people make their voting plan. And in this cycle, there's the additional obstacle of the pandemic. It's almost another competitor in this race, right? Because we're dealing with a slowed down mail delivery system, trying to figure out how people can cast their ballot without placing their health in jeopardy. And so at this point, it's both about sharing the mechanics. So I know that the campaigns and also a slew of nonpartisan civil rights organizations are really working on ensuring that everyone understands the process of vote by mail, and is also aware of their rights when it comes to early voting, making sure that people know their state rules when it comes to ensuring the vote is cast and whether or not it needs to be received by your election administration officials by election day, or if it can count after election day, trying to ensure that people are aware of their rights in that regard. And then energizing turnout, as you mentioned, there are some urban cores that saw declines in turnout in 2016. Voters who voted in 2012 but then did not turn out in 2016. Those 1,100 votes in Michigan, where I'm from, with lower turnout and depressed turnout in Detroit, and also in, for example, in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, there was a lower turnout in 2016. And so, in part, what is happening today, and the debate was part of that, was energizing the backbone of the Democratic Party. And that backbone is Black women. We know that Black women have turned out by over 60% in the last few election cycles. We turn out at levels far greater than our percentage of the population. But we also mobilize our families and our networks and our sororities to do just what I opened up with, make a plan for voting. We help to engage our communities in making that plan. And so there's a lot of speaking and working with Black women, but also just pointing out the existential threat that the Trump-Pence administration is to the lives and the livelihoods of the core of the Democratic Party. And then so in addition to the urban core, and in addition to those swing states and those central areas where we need to ensure that the base is mobilized, there's also, I think, a focus on blowing out the margin this go round, because we know that Donald Trump has suggested that the voting system is rigged with fraud and abuse, and that he might not acknowledge the outcome of the election. He might not recognize it, the validity of it. And part of the way to do that and to prevent against any shenanigans is by ensuring that there is an overwhelming margin of victory. And so that includes not just the traditional Democratic base, but also mobilizing and speaking to the independent voters and those women, white women in the suburbs who went for Trump by 9 points in 2016. So I think that the debate last night was so important, in part to speak to those women as well. We see that the polls are showing, CNN just reported a poll as of registered voters after the debate, that post-debate, Senator Harris's favorability among women increased by 7%, so up from 63 to 70%. She even boosted her favorability among Trump supporters from pre-debate from 4% pre-debate to 12% post-debate. And I think that is part of the strategy, the coalition here that the Biden-Harris ticket is aiming to build, or has, in fact, I would argue, has already built, is intergenerational, multiracial. It includes the core of the Democratic Party, specifically Black women, but it expands to white women in the suburbs who may have voted for Trump in the past, but are the actual true undecideds in this moment. And some people would suggest, some pundits suggest that there are no undecideds left, but I think that this is it. I think that the numbers, while most voters are firm, I think that it is that demographic, the white women in the suburbs, that are still trying to decide who is the best leader to pull the economy back, to help to keep their children safe, and to heal the divisions in this country.
You know, I'm so glad you brought this up, because I think that we've known for a while that women are the primary force for electing Democrats, led by Black women, as you pointed out. And it's also been true this year that I think, from my vantage point, that many of these women have been educated, if that's the word, and mobilized by the Black Lives Matter movement and related discussions of injustice and inequality in the court systems and urban policing that includes suburban communities. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, from your vantage point, how you see that agenda, assuming that Vice President Biden and Senator Harris win, and how that agenda can work across all communities.
Well, I think that Senator Harris spoke to this a bit last night, that there is one element of the movement for Black lives that is about policing reform. And that one element of their agenda is ensuring, the Biden-Harris platform is ensuring that some of the atrocities that we've seen that just lend themselves to police abuse and police violence, that there would be national standards related to them. So some of the elements that are in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, banning chokeholds, ensuring the use of body cameras, banning no-knock warrants, reforming the qualified immunity standard for police, having a national database to ensure that those who would commit police abuse aren't able to just transfer to another jurisdiction. But if you zoom out in a larger sense, the movement for Black Lives, the movement that has now become the greatest movement of this generation, the largest movement, again, intergenerational, multiracial movement for Black Lives, is also about working to deconstruct systems of inequality in our country. And I think that you're seeing women seeing themselves in that call as well, in that movement as well. Everything from ensuring that there are not disparities in our healthcare system, in our access and delivery. So I think it has come to the forefront of the nation's consciousness that African American women are 3 times more likely to die giving childbirth than our white counterparts. And so maternal mortality rates of that level should not exist in our country. That level of inequality should not exist in our country. The fact that there is a severe racial wealth gap and that home ownership in the Black community has hovered at around 40%, while in our white counterparts it's around 72%, and trying to adjust for asset accumulation and investing in communities of color to ensure that we have opportunities to acquire housing and capital for businesses and quality jobs. I think all of these things are starting to percolate at the forefront of the national consciousness, and also are elements that are included in the Biden-Harris agenda, ensuring that we tackle the racial wealth gap, ensuring that we tackle health equity, ensuring that we reform abusive police practices, and that we take aim at deconstructing systemic racial inequality in our time.
You just started to touch on this already, but I think, for the next 26 days, obviously the most important thing is that we help get Democrats elected up and down the ballot. It's just absolutely crucial to getting these things done. But of course, that work doesn't end on November 3rd. So in this next Congress, which hopefully will include, even more women, hopefully there'll be more women senators. What should these women members of Congress be uniting around? What should be their priorities in this next congressional session, especially now that they will hopefully have a Democratic president who will be willing to sign these laws?
Well, as sort of the heart and the conscience of our Congress, I would hope that the women tackle what is somewhat of a quintessential woman's issue in this moment, which is our economy, right? Because so I'm trying to remember the weekly report numbers of unemployment last week. I think over 840,000 people filed for unemployment, and that's adding to over 30 million of Americans who are unemployed. And we absolutely need another round of comprehensive stimulus in order to ensure that families can make ends meet, that people are not facing evictions, that people are able to put food on the table. And that's a countrywide issue. And I think that is an American issue. So we've seen the unemployment benefits expire while there has been an extension of federal moratoriums on evictions. All of those, that moratorium will expire in December, at the end of December. And all of that rent will become due. And we are going to see significant pain in this country. It is going to be at depression level, at the depression level for our economy. And if you think about what that means in the terms of pain for individuals and families. And so I think that aid that needs to be invested both in the hands of working families and in the hands of unemployed to make ends meet, and then thinking through what equitable recovery looks like and investments in the communities that were hardest hit by the COVID crisis, that needs to be priority number one for our women leaders as they enter into the chambers of Congress and the Senate.
So related to that is, we come to a close here. We want to both realize what's in front of us, as you so carefully pointed out and comprehensively, but also end as we try to do with some sort of inspirational thoughts from our guest about these women leaders. And on the point you were just making, I was thinking as you were talking that, of course, as we know, it's women electeds who bring policies forth and legislation forth in significant numbers historically that benefit women and girls. So I'm wondering, as we close, if you could just share with our listeners from your own vantage point and from your observation and working with other women leaders about how they too can come into this public square, be activists, particularly be leaders, if that's the goal.
So I've had the pleasure of working for some dynamic women, brilliant leaders in the political sphere, from Valerie Jarrett to Melody Barnes to the First Lady, Michelle Obama. And I think that each of them would say that there are too few of us who are running for political office. And that in our individual spheres, there are too few of us that are using our voices to try to shed light on the issues that are important to all of us and to our community. And I think what I've read that, that overwhelmingly women are starting to see the need to step into that gulf. And I think that I'm inspired by what we have with Kamala Harris as the vice presidential running mate, because it's just one more example of a barrier that is coming down.
Right.
And I think more people are going to follow her lead as we see her as a model of what is possible.
So it's almost closing time here. Kelly, any quick parting question? And great thank yous for your doing this as we look to vote her in. I saw a great poster this morning that said,
vote her in.
Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
There are certainly folks in my community and my friend group who are looking at it that way.
Yep.
Harris and Biden.
Yes. My 6-year-old, of course, is a huge Kamala fan, and he also is saying, and that Joe Biden guy. But yeah, I mean, I think, as someone who has been waiting and yearning for a woman president since I was a little girl, this, seeing Kamala Harris on that debate stage so masterfully doing what she did is just exciting. And I continue to look forward to the day that we have a woman president, and, maybe it'll be Kamala, and that'll be amazing.
That will be amazing.
It will be wonderful. And in the meanwhile, we're all going to work like for the next 4 weeks. So thanks again, Alaina. We'll talk again, I'm sure.
The Vote Her In segment is a collaboration of Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. Our theme song is called Are You Listening, off of the album Elephant-Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.